Hello, welcome back to Celtics 2, episode number 4. I'm Jackson Agello. He's Dennis Riley. Then we've been on a bit of a hiatus. A lot has happened for the Celtics. We've seen some ups for a brief minute while we were gone, and now a slight downturn. Celtics have lost 3 of their last 4, including just honestly a brutal most recent loss to the Clippers, where one of the vintage of late Celtics fake comebacks, I guess you could say. The team looked like they were coming right back into the game towards the end and just didn't have it. And in the end, the team down in that game, trying to foul, just doesn't get a foul off with the last 10 seconds left, which is just kind of just inexcusable. And the clock runs out towards 1 second, and that was not nearly a time left. When you don't have a timeout there, I don't get how you don't reach to get the foul a lot sooner there.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like, that is like basketball 101. You can't risk trapping the ball with that much time, with that little amount of time left. You got to get a foul. Hope they miss a free throw. Hope they miss both free throws. Best of all, but the situational basketball there just wasn't good. The closeout was not good at all. You got to foul. Anybody has to foul. Can't let that happen. Can't do it.
Exactly. The team was down, for context, down by 1 after Tatum made his second free throw when the Clippers fouled the Celtics. And teams down by 1, you need to foul. You're going to get a chance, because even if the Clippers, like they did, make 2 free throws, you're going to get the ball back. You foul with 8 seconds left. You have plenty of time to bring it the length of the floor back up. But when you don't have that timeout, because they already used it to get on the possession prior, you have to be aware to foul quickly. It doesn't matter if you try and go over the steal at that point. No. You can't risk not getting that foul off and not doing it quickly. And that's just inexcusable. And that kind of brings us from that being our big 3 topic number 1 to big 3 topic number 2, which is the broader sense of this team and closing out games. It's been a lingering issue over the course of the season. It's not like this team necessarily, when you look at games throughout the year, you look and sit and say, wow, when this team's lost, they've gotten their doors blown in with a high degree of frequency. It's happened, don't get me wrong, but not a lot. That game against the Clippers, obviously the Lakers game was, the score looks a little bit more lopsided in the end, being a 15-point loss, but that game was within reach in the third quarter. Definitely. Things just got away towards the end of the fourth quarter. And then, San Antonio was an 8-point loss. And a lot of those games, you can include also, even though the Celtics beat Philadelphia back on December 1st in that 88-87 game, they did everything in their power to try and lead that game. And just down the stretch, this team could do a better job of making the savvy play, which honestly was just embodied by what happened at the end of that Clippers game by not getting that foul off. Boom, right away.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like, honestly, this has been so recurring for throughout this season and last season. I feel like they struggled a lot at the end of games, closing out, continuing to play hard after they were up, blowing leads. This time they're doing a lot of coming back, but then they're blowing it again. Like last night, I think they were down 20 in the third. They came back, brought it back to 4. Went back down to 11 with a couple minutes left, and then again brought it back to 1 at some point. I mean, Marcus Morris did hit a really nice shot, which I think was the dagger for us. I think we had a shot if he didn't make that shot, and we saw that back when he was on the Celtics. He was pretty good at that. But yeah, no, like you said, we've had a bunch of close games that were in recently. Utah was another one of them. Utah was shooting lights out that game. Mike Conley 7 for 7 from 3, but we definitely had a chance to win that game. And the Philly game, I was there in person. Tough to watch the ending, but glad we pulled it out.
That was some mid-2000s basketball scoring.
It was a lot of defense, honestly, a lot of missed shots too, but like a lot of defense. It was a good old school basketball type of game.
I felt like I was watching Indiana play Detroit in 2003.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That Detroit team was fun to watch. That defense they played. Good old Rip Hamilton. Shout out UConn as well. But no, yeah, I know. I hope they get better at closing out games. We do have, I mean, Tatum's been really clutch since he came into the league. He's kind of gone down downhill in that area a little bit, but he's been shooting really well recently. He started the year off not that great, wasn't shooting good, a lot of turnovers. He had a lot of turnovers last night actually against LA, but he's been playing well, facilitating pretty well, and especially with we don't really have that many other options right now, especially with Jaylen out. So we need him to step up. And I know we always have to tell him to step up because he's the guy, but he's got to step up at the end of games even more than he has been.
And part of the problem with this team getting in that position is a lack of consistency, which does come from a lot of new faces and a lack of continuity over the course of the season with both injuries and just new faces, new places. And I think you start to see that because what do the great teams in the NBA do? Every, basketball is a game of flow. It goes up and down. It's a very momentum heavy game. Like a 10-point lead in the NBA is almost nothing.
Yep.
But what the great teams do, like if you're watching the Warriors or something, how do they have only 4 losses or so on the season? When they're not playing well, it's a much more staying the course type of thing. They don't get down by like 30. They don't get down by 20 some odd points and then have to storm back just to get into the game and then flow back down. Because you can't, when you're making those dramatic comebacks, the reason it's rare to come back from a deficit of 20 something points is because you have to place this at such a high level in that flow. When you come back down, well, you did all that to get back into the game, and now a couple shots go the other team's way and you dug yourself too big a hole. Mm-hmm. This team does that with some regularity, where they put themselves in tough spots and then have to play exceedingly well to get back into the game. And by the time they've done that, they're gassed or spent and just don't have any juice left. And it's too late at that point. And then any minor mistake down the stretch, like what we just referenced in the Clippers game, or some of the mistakes they almost made against the Sixers, they get elevated because of those lack of consistency earlier in the game. Puts a lot more emphasis on being clutch towards the end of it, which, in the NBA, you have to be clutch, but you can prepare yourself to be in the right position to be clutch in a little bit more of a consistent way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Consistency, it's been our issue for the past couple of years. Like, we gotta get something down pat. They gotta get them moving. Can't keep staying at 500 all year. We've been wavering around it the whole time. We gotta get on a winning streak, get hot. Stretch of games we have coming up, not great, but I think we could do it, especially if we have I think we have a pretty solid schedule in January, so hopefully we get a lot of home games in there. We've had a lot of away games in general all season, so I can see it happening once we get fully healthy. But consistency is key around the league in pretty much any type of basketball manner. Consistency is key.
And that brings us to big 3 topic number 3, which is stay the course. As we've mentioned and referenced a couple different times, Jaylen Brown obviously still not with the Celtics playing right now. And Dennis, you just loosely referenced the schedule coming up, and the next 4 games are a pretty daunting task. At Phoenix, home for a couple games, but these home games are not easy by any stretch.
Not great.
Milwaukee, Golden State, New York, and then if you want to tack in a 5th one there against the 76ers again at home. And for the rest of this month of December, the competition's pretty strong. It's pretty stiff, and there's going to be another game against Phoenix later this month and another game against LA later this month. It's a pretty loaded month of December. So when I say it's a big thing for the Celtics to stay the course here, especially with Jaylen Brown, hopefully he comes back into the fold shortly. When I say stay the course, I mean, if this team can get towards the end of this month around 500, I know that might not look great optically to Celtics fans, but I think that's a really great margin for this team to be at. And that would be, obviously anything more is positive, but I think that's the expectation where it should be, to try and aim to stay the course, stay 500 for now. Because if you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, which is what the Celtics need to worry about, if the playoffs were to end today, the Celtics would be literally the last team into the play-in at the 10 seed spot. But the difference, obviously, in part because it's very early in the season, the difference between where the Celtics are, which is the 10th spot, and the 4 seed, which is currently the Heat, is 2 games in the loss column. Literally 2 games in the loss column and 3 games to be the 3 seed. obviously, that type of margin stretches over the course of a season, but there's still that big log jam in the East with a lot of teams that have a lot of talent. And if they can just stay the course for a little bit here, and then you sort of started to reference, the schedule does get a lot easier come January. You see a lot less incredible talented teams lining up that schedule and a lot more teams who are flirting towards the bottom of the standings. A couple matchups against Indiana in that month, San Antonio, Orlando, New Orleans, and Chicago, who Chicago's been obviously a better team this year. But as I mentioned, the schedule gets a lot better in January. If you can get healthy, stick around just for a little while. Just for a little while, stay the course for a bit. I think some better things could come in the month of January.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, it might be tough to watch some of these upcoming games against some of the tougher, better teams in the league, especially the Golden State game. That might be tough to watch. Hopefully not. But no, you're right. And I know before I said we don't want to keep saying at 500, but I feel like that's definitely a feat for December with the way our schedule's been and how it's been structured this year. But no, it's true. Jaylen being out is a massive, massive loss. That's our number two guy in every sense. Big offensive weapon. A lot of other guys have to make up for all of his shots when he's out, and none of them are as good. None of them are as good as him. So it's tough. It's tough. And he came back a couple of games ago. Didn't look the same. He doesn't have the same bounce. Doesn't have as 100% healthy ring. So I think it is a good thing to sit him for a bit until he's fully healthy, because hamstrings an injury that can come back over and over and over again. So you don't want that to happen to him, especially at the end of the season. Don't want that lingering.
And especially as you mentioned with the hamstring, that's the type of injury that does linger. It is. Yeah. And it's better to have him be at 100% to come back than to risk bringing him at 80 and making it a lot worse and missing even more time. Yeah, exactly. And especially for such an explosive player, like he feeds off of his explosiveness. So it's a big loss when he's not at his best, because we know what he's like at his best, and we play really well as a team when he is. I'm just hoping, and we said this a lot last year. Hopefully the hospital Celtics don't come back this year in full force, and we can. I know there's been a few COVID outbreaks recently too in the league, so hopefully we could steer clear of that and at least stay decently healthy for the future. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, hopefully January will go a lot better than December, but we got to try, like you said. Then you brought me literally right into my final thought topic, which is quite simply get healthy.
Yeah,
that's what this team needs to do in order to see what's here. Obviously, it's not sustainable to have your number 2 shot differential kind of be Dennis Schroeder. That's not sustainable, because right now on a given night, it's obviously Tatum taking the most shots, and then right after that, it's Marcus Smart or it's Dennis Schroeder, and that's not what you were hoping for this team this season. So obviously, you want to see what those two are capable of doing together. If they can get back into a rhythm and maybe hit a stride come January, that's the goal. We'll see if that's able to happen, but I think there's nothing more you can do other than just say, let's get healthy and see what can happen here.
Yeah, no, really what a team is actually like until they're fully healthy too. Like this could just be bad stretch, and the Celtics go through a lot of bad stretches, especially recently, but you never know what they can do. They can, sky's the limit. And hopefully they reach the sky this year. But my final thought is kind of something that we've seen a lot recently. I feel like in games, it kind of bleeds into our first couple topics. It's about how they haven't been able to finish games out, but I want them to show a little more effort out there. Not really effort as much as heart. I feel like on the court, I think I mentioned this last season a couple of times, but sometimes I feel like they play a little bit. a lot of people, I feel like they hang their heads too big stretches. I feel like once a team scores, goes on a run or something, I'll get down. And when they do back and it goes their way, they tip. I want to see a little more heart. And our biggest heart guy is Marcus Smart. And he has shown some heart recently. He's been very, very good facilitator, actually. A lot better than I expected this year, honestly. And his 3-point shooting is gone. He has much, which is also, but he just has to continue to bring it on a daily basis, show the other guys to bring it as well, not to get down once you give up a big lead or something like that. But like Jaylen will do when he comes back, because he feeds off of it. He feeds off playing well. And I think he is one of the leaders on this team. Even when he's been injured, he's been on the bench every game, getting hyped, whatever they do. But yeah, it's going to be, still got a lot of season left. A lot of basketball to be played. People got to get healthy. We got to start playing well. Hopefully this bad stretch was good and soon, and we'll be fine. I hope.
We'll see what happens over the course of these next few games. Obviously, it's a bit of a gauntlet. Might be a couple gut check games for the Celtics, but we'll be here to talk about it next week. That'll do it for this week's edition of Celtics Tube. Don't forget to like and subscribe or comment any of your thoughts down below. He's Dennis. I'm Jackson. See you guys next week.